This is a quick tutorial to show you how to make a line graph here, essentially showing a 2 by 2 design with the means here. So this is an example of a graph here that has a 2 by 2 setup. And so I'm going to show you 2 by 2 would mean that there's heritage acculturation as one of the variables, and you either have a level of lower heritage acculturation or higher. And then one of the other variables is Canadian acculturation, and the levels there would be low and high. So you have the two variables, each with two levels. So this is a 2 by 2, and how you can see that is it looks sort of like a window, that there's 2 cells by 2 cells down and across, and so a total of 4 cells there. And then the means for each group would be listed here. So for instance, the mean for the group that has lower heritage acculturation and lower Canadian acculturation is 3.15. These are all estimates. I'm just showing you some fabricated data here. Then we have the mean for the higher heritage acculturation and lower Canadian acculturation. You meet them together and it would be 3.1. The same here, meet these and there's 2.8, and you meet these and it's 3.25. So what we need to do, if you didn't have this graph here, I'm showing you how you would open an Excel document and sort of make this table so that you could use the table in Excel to make this graph. So basically, if this is how I started out, to help you with it, you would sort of see your 4 squares here as where you'd put the 4 means. And so I'm going to highlight those just with a blue color. And then at the top, you sort of have these 2 cells would be the 2 levels of your one variable. So that's where you type in the lower heritage acculturation, LHA, and then the higher heritage acculturation. Then here you have lower Canadian acculturation, and here you have higher Canadian acculturation. Now I'm putting up here just the name of the means score that I'm actually looking at. And so I'm comparing the mean wise reasoning score. That is going to be on your y-axis, because basically you're saying, here's the means value that we're looking at, and we're going to plot 4 points and then have lines that are connecting each of them depending on the section here. So to show the interaction and any mean effects. So we'll get to that later, but basically I just wrote mean wise reasoning score at the top here. You could highlight some cells and click merge and center if you want to there, but just to show what I'm looking at. And then of course, that's where you're typing in the means for each of the appropriate blocks here. I'm just going to copy and paste that there. So that's what you see. So then when you want to actually create this graph in Excel, you're going to highlight, I'll hold this for just a moment, the 4 means and the 4 labels for the variable levels. And then just this is an empty one. It's because you're highlighting all of them together, okay? Then you can go to find the chart in a couple ways. If you see this little thing, if you hover over it, it says quick analysis. The other thing you can do is say insert, and then here's your charts. So that's what you'll want. Again, they bring you the same thing. If you go to quick analysis, you can go to charts here, and then you can click more, or you could have these highlighted and go to recommended charts, or perhaps find some here. So I'm going to go to recommended charts. When I click that, it's actually going to give me a preview. We don't want a bar graph here, but if you want to, that's where you'd find it. But in all charts, I'm actually going to go to a line graph, and here's a preview, and it does show what I'm looking for. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here for a second. Backspace. So in this chart, we have to change a few things. Basically, the wise reasoning score has to show the value, the lowest value and the highest value, according to the score that you actually measured. So for instance, if you look up here, the scale was from a 1 to 5. And so the lowest score that anyone could potentially have received was a 1, and the highest was a 5. Because when you take a means, it would always be from 1 to 5 in this particular case. And so Excel popped out 2.5 to 3.3. We don't want that. So let's double click on the axis here. You should have format access. Sometimes it might be in chart design up here. So take a look and see where you might find it, format sections or anything like that. But basically, you should see this, and then it would go to the axis options, and you'd say your bounds would be maximum and minimum. We want our maximum to be the 5 and the minimum to be the 1. And then you can change the major units. Let's see, this one shows 0.5, and that's fine for me. So let's just make sure. Yeah, you might have to press enter. It looks like it now has a 1 to 5. So make sure that's the case. So let's click out of here. Now, the reason is, if you recall, you can go back in the video to see that when it was on a smaller scale, the lines were way further apart. Here, the data is accurately represented because it's on the full scale. So you don't want to skew the look of the graph because you do not have it on a correct scale. So here we are. Also, it doesn't look exactly like this graph here because I was creating data from this. But basically, this is what you would need to do to get your data by putting in the means that you would find from your analyses for those groups. So I don't like how it has the abbreviations here. So I'm actually going to copy and paste each of these in here. And look how awesome it is, because we have highlighted those cells originally to get us this chart, which you can see they're in all colors here. Anytime you change information within those cells, it automatically changes it within the graph, which is great. Okay, so let's go over here. You might need the chart elements section. You could also go up to chart design when you're clicked on the graph. Make sure you're clicked on the graph, chart design, and then add our chart element is also a way to find these options. But I'm going to go over here, and you have to do this APA style, so you can refer to the other APA 2x2 bar graph tutorial for those pieces of information. But here's where you can add in your axes titles. We don't want a chart title there. We do want a legend, but we don't want some grid lines. So that looks pretty good here. For the legend, let's see. If you click that arrow, I actually want it more options. Let's see. So when I clicked more options, it lets me have this box that I can sort of change the shape and move it. But now it's in the way of things. So I'm going to click in this graph and actually pull down so that there's more room here, and then maybe pull this down to make that look a little better. So look at that, that's better. And then axis title, you might make that something if it's necessary. Perhaps you could have put just lower here, higher here, and then make the axis title heritage acculturation. If you don't need an axis title, you can click that and click backspace and it will go away. But for this one, that's where we'd put wise reasoning, maybe mean wise reasoning if that's the case. If it was a sum, then you can put sum wise reasoning or anything like that. I also want some lines here. So I'm going to double click on this, go to the fill bucket and go to line, and then you can say solid line and we'll make it black. You could do the same for this one, solid line, and make it black. So those are just a few things to show you. Please go back to the 2x2 APA tutorial to show more about APA style. You could also change the colors on all the lines as well, so make sure you go to do that. The last thing I wanted to say is that in your, let's see real quick, when you go to your Dickinson page and you go to home, it should pop up there. You can click install Office, and that's where you should be able to install Excel on your personal computer if you don't already have it. Okay, thanks. Hope this helps. Bye.